Please stand for the national anthem and the presentation of colors.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
You may be seated.
On my honor,
You may be seated. Good evening, and welcome to the 2012 Grand Rapids Community College Police Academy graduation. On behalf of the recruits and staff, I would like to thank all of you, the friends, families of these recruits, for the dedication, the patience, and the encouragement that you have given over the past year as these recruits have prepared for a career in law enforcement. This is a night to celebrate. We'd like to start the presentation out with just a quick video, a snapshot of what these recruits have endured over the past 10 months.
Jack and Diane painted a picture of my life and my dreams. Suddenly this crazy world made more sense to me. Well, I heard it today and I couldn't help but sing along, 'cause every time I hear that song, and I go back to a two-tone short bed Chevy, driving my first love out to the levee, living life with no sense of time. And I go back to the feel of a 50-yard line, a blanket of girls, some raspberry wine, wishing time would stop right in its tracks. Every time I hear that song, I'll go back. All night long to keep on rocking me, baby. At frat parties, college bars, just trying to impress the ladies. Well, I heard it today and I couldn't help but sing along, 'cause every time I hear that song, and I go back to the smell of an old gym floor and the taste of salt on a Carolina shore after graduation and drinking goodbye to friends. I go back to watching summer fade to fall, growing up too fast, and I do recall wishing time would stop right in its tracks. Every time I hear that song, I go back, I go back. We all have a song that somehow stamped our lives, takes us to another place and time. So I go back to the pew, preacher and a choir, singing about God and brimstone and fire, and the smell of Sunday chicken after church. And I go back to the loss of a real good friend and the 16 summers I shared with him. Now only the good die young stops me in my tracks. Every time I hear that song, I go back, I go back to the feel of a 50-yard line, a blanket of girls, some raspberry wine. I go back to watching summer fade to fall, growing up too fast, and I do recall. I go back to the loss of a real good friend and the 16 summers I shared with him. I go back, I go back, I go back.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question, but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life.
I just want to thank Holly Tetro and Sean Reed for putting that video together for us. At this time, please join me in welcoming the president of Grand Rapids Community College, Dr. Stephen Ender.
Thank you. Thank you and good evening. As we could all see on the tape, these men and women have had a busy training experience. I can't imagine doing it in training, much less going out and doing it on the job, quite frankly. Before I talk directly to the graduates, I'd like to say a word to the families that are here tonight. What an enormous display of love and affection and support. None of us get through training programs and simultaneously working and probably having families and all the stresses of life without a tremendous team of people around them, their families, their loved ones, their wives, their girlfriends, their husbands, their grandparents, their kids. And I would wager a bet that every one of the folks that are sitting in front of me tonight that are graduating have not at some point during this training experience used the comfort and the advice and the shoulder of someone in that family to help them get through this experience. So families, I applaud you and I thank you for what you've done to help these students get to the point that they're at tonight. For our students, it was interesting when Jody asked the office if Steve would come do a welcome. I thought, yeah, that's cool. I'll be glad to do that. This is always a great celebration. And then I read the press release today, and I was doing the keynote. I mean, that all of a sudden got elevated a bit in my mind and my heart rate and my anxiety. But I've thought a bit about what I think is important for me as I look at you and the jobs that you're getting ready to do. First, I want to say thank you, because you're entering into a profession that has some of the greatest stress that I think one could enter, and you have to deal with that stress and continue to operate with your ethical principles and with integrity and with a command of the situation, and in fact, to be a model for the rest of us. Luckily, I've never had much problem with law enforcement. You know, how that happened, I'm not quite sure, but I did not, except for I got a speeding ticket. And the state trooper that stopped me, it was amazing, the professionalism. I wanted to thank the guy, but I didn't do that. I mean, but truly, when it was all over, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for helping me realize that perhaps I was endangering myself and someone else. And that's just such a little piece of your work. What about the guy you got to bust because he's dealing drugs? You know? Or the tragedy that you come across on the road with victims, or a child who is missing and their parents are frantic. The stress of what you will be dealing with in my mind is enormous. And I have to believe that you've all given that some serious thought. Because this is not a profession that you enter into lightly from my perspective. And you've made a commitment to yourself and to your peers and to your instructors and to your families and to those citizens who you will work to protect, that you are ready to step up to that responsibility. And all I can do is applaud you. All I can do is applaud you. And I hope that you really understand that you're stepping up in a way that most of us could not and would not and will not. And so that distinguishes you. So now I have every doubt that you go forward in these careers and you will do honor to the uniform that you wear, to the men and women that work beside you, and to the families and folks that you protect. I have no doubt about that. And we are so privileged to have been part of your experience. I wish you well, and be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gunder. Will the squad leaders from both squads please stand? The people standing now were the squad leaders. They were the ones that the instructors and myself would choose every semester to lead their squad. They were my go-to recruits. They took care of the daily business in the squad. They did uniform inspections, gave daily announcements, and Facebook updates. And when something didn't go right in their squad, they pretty much suffered the consequences on behalf of the squad and had to listen to me, or I had to hear from the instructors. I want to thank all of you. You have gone above and beyond to assist your squads. And I hope that the experience you had in the police academy will assist you as future leaders. Can A squad leaders please join me on stage? Squad leaders Stephen Hall, Ricky Mathis, Jason Paddock, Joey Saladino, Philip Andres, and Travis Skippers. Mr. Mathis is going to speak on behalf of his squad.
Hello, everyone. Before I start, I would like to thank, again, all the family and loved ones that came out tonight. My squad mates and I can agree that we wouldn't be where we are today without your help and support. With that being said, Director Richart explained just a short 10 months ago that during orientation, we as a squad would become a family. And standing next to me and sitting in front of me are my brothers and sisters, and she was spot on. So, as most families are, nothing's perfect. Families suffer disappointment from time to time, but it's those same people that will be there to pick you up when you're down. During the academy, all of us have suffered some disappointment, whether if it was a low test score, failing a scenario, or having to retake the state licensing exam. But here we all are, completing one of our life's greatest accomplishments. Today is a day that myself and everyone sitting in front of me will remember for the rest of our lives. And it wouldn't have made possible without GRCC, the administration, Director Richard, and all of our instructors. Our instructors throughout the academy are excellent. They all know their work. They all know how to put it forth and explain it in a way that we all can grasp it and go on for our future. From being ran through the ground every morning to nonstop critical thinking during traffic stops and scenarios. But this year, A Squad got together and decided that one instructor stood out above all. From his teaching style, his jokes in class, to bringing in outside role players to help us improve our skills, even if that meant buying them lunch or buying them a round of golf, Sergeant McCall is our Instructor of the Year. Sergeant McCall, thank you for an outstanding academy and everything you have done for us. Thank you. For those of you that don't know, Sergeant McCall enjoys Mountain Dew. So we've got him enough for a month at least. Thank you very much.
We got a little gift for the academy. It's how we feel that it was there. The quote says, "The more you sweat in training, the less you'll bleed on the street." So,
Thank you.
here you go.
Squad B, will you please join me on stage? The squad leaders from Squad B are Emo Perry, Carl Williams, Joshua Wise, Ryan Myers, Joseph Walters, and Justin Laux. Recruit Williams will be doing a presentation on behalf of his squad.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome. I would first like to congratulate the recruits from both squads as we recognize the success of these last 10 months. This day marks a turning point in our lives where we will embark on our journey into our new careers. But for most of us, this journey didn't begin just 10 months ago. It started long ago with the burning desire in our hearts to pursue law enforcement. Bruce Springsteen said it best by saying, "A time comes when you need to stop waiting for the man you want to become and start being the man you want to be." And tonight marks that night for us. We came into this academy as strangers, but together, after countless push-ups, team-building exercises, scenario training, holding the edges of a trash can after one of Lieutenant Wu's runs to the X, and sharing our lives together each night at dinner, the bond that this squad has formed is something that only a select few will ever get to experience. I can personally say I will miss the day-to-day interactions with my friends who have become like family. We have all challenged ourselves mentally and physically to reach our goal of being here tonight. But this is by no means the end, merely the beginning of a new chapter in our lives. No other profession in the world can claim to offer what law enforcement promises. These days ahead, we will face struggles and difficulties. We will be exposed to one person's anguish, another's outrage, or possibly the overwhelming joy of saving a life, potentially all in the same day. There will be times where we will laugh, and times where we will cry, and times where we will simply hold each other in our arms. Remember our oath of honor. Never betray our badge, our integrity, our character, or the public trust. We are held to a higher standard and we must stay vigilant in our beliefs, no matter what temptations arise. We no longer have those daily workouts with our fellow comrades, the benefit of a training environment, or the scrutiny of our instructors who have pushed us and challenged us to be the best. We must hold ourselves accountable and never let go of our dreams. I challenge each of you here tonight to make every attempt to learn from each experience you encounter and to work to exploit your true potential as a law enforcement officer. This career will offer a lifetime of opportunities to learn and grow, to be that courageous warrior we long to be. Stand beside the men and women you love and love the community you serve. I will leave you tonight with some thoughts shared by an unknown author. Believe in your heart that something wonderful is about to happen. Love your life. Believe in your own powers. Believe in your own potentials. Believe in your own goodness. Be open to all your possibilities and always believe in miracles. Wake up every morning with the awe of being alive and live this day well. Thank you.
The Grand Rapids Community College Police Academy is comprised of some of the top leading professionals in the business: directors, deputy chief, lieutenants, sergeants, and veteran officers, just to name a few. Tonight is with great honor and privilege to stand before you tonight to recognize these unique and talented individuals as I present to you B Squad's Instructor of the Year Award. Without their guidance and expertise, this day couldn't be possible. We spent many hours in the classroom taking notes, asking questions, studying PowerPoints, and analyzing police videos. We learned traffic and felony stops, driving techniques at GVSU. We toured Kent County Corrections Facility. We learned about court proceedings, prisoner intake, and accident investigations at South Haven PD, and raided their local Chinese buffet twice. Director Richard taught us the importance of punctuation, grammar, and spelling, and how to write an outstanding report. We also learned the damaging effects a red pen can have on a bad report. We also spent a lot of time getting into shape. We swam laps, took runs through the city, and got bruised up playing dodgeball. We ran to the X, ran trails, took runs to the zoo, and ran up and down stairwells. Truth is, we ran and ran and ran. We ran to Bobby Kosminski's gravesite. It was a long, painful 8 or 9 mile run. When everyone arrived, we stood around his grave in a circle while a fellow friend and comrade told us about the tragic events that led to Officer Kosminski's death. I listened as he struggled to find the words, occasionally pausing in mid-sentence. He poured out his heart and instilled in us the importance of officer safety and staying vigilant. And yet, that even in those moments, things can go terribly wrong. I admired his strength and courage. Lieutenant Wu is an instructor that has become a very special friend to each of us. He taught us that pain is nothing compared to what it feels like to quit. He believed in us probably more than we believe in ourselves, and he wears his heart on his sleeve. We'd like to present this year's Instructor of the Award to Lieutenant Wu. Director Richard, it's been an unbelievable experience, and this academy is really blessed because of all of your efforts and your leadership here. I'd like to present that to you. Yeah. We'd also like to present a plaque to the Academy in honor of the 3 fallen soldiers, or 3 fallen officers that actually attended this Academy, and we'd love to commemorate that. Thank you.
It's a night of gifts. At this time, I'd like to invite the skills instructors one at a time to come to the stage, starting with Detective Morningstar.
Good evening. Well, congratulations, you guys, you did it. I get the pleasure of teaching them for one long 8-hour class on a Friday, and then a long weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And usually we split them up, A squad and B squad. And this year we did something a little different, and we mixed them up within each other. At times it was kind of funny because we'd look over, it would look like a junior high dance. A squad would be on one side, B squad would be on the other. But by the end of the weekend, they were really meshing together. But how we did it is we picked the top recruit by attitude, driving skills, their written test score, and by who could get pressured into a little competition and win that competition. So this year, we actually chose Recruit Walters. So, and the reason is because in that weekend, you can come on up. During the weekend, he got called out by another recruit, and they had a little competition. And then somebody, not Recruit Walters, had to get down on their knees and tell them that they were a worse driver than him. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sergeant Reminga.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sergeant Mark Remiga. I am the lead firearms instructor, which just means I get to haul the equipment to the range and back every day. It's a pretty prestigious job, but Jody lets me have it every year, so I'm grateful for that. Firearms, a pretty cool thing to teach. My fellow instructors here, Senior Special Agent Brian Lukey, Officer Greg Wilshire, and Glenn Colbert, who is not here tonight. He had a previous engagement. Great team. We really love what we do, and I don't know who has more fun on the range with firearms, the recruits or us, but we really enjoy it. They learn a little bit about nomenclature, which is basically the parts of the weapon systems. Obviously, we teach them how to shoot. We teach them how to shoot with a shotgun, a rifle, and a handgun. And at the end of the academy, once they've all reached their objectives and they've safely done so, we have a little bit of a shooting competition for each of the squads just to determine who, under the pressure and the stress of the competition, can do the best. So for A squad, I'd like to call up Recruit Z-Rip. Recruit Z-Rip was one of these guys who started out pretty strong and ended up very, very strong. Sometimes the people who win this competition have never even fired a handgun before, so you never really know who it's going to be, but he did a real good job. And I was hoping we could give him a gift certificate that we normally do for $25,000, but the budget was a little short this year, so you're just going to get this certificate, and congratulations. And for B squad, could I bring up Recruit Longberg? Recruit Longberg started out his career being able to deliver well-aimed shots with a tennis racket. I got to see that photo in the lounge, and he can do pretty well with a handgun or a rifle or a shotgun too. So I think the tennis really helped. So if he doesn't make it in law enforcement, I think he's going to be a model for maybe some tennis wear or something, because he looks really good doing that. But he did a great job. He's our B Squad winner. Congratulations.
Lieutenant Wu.
Good evening. Recruits, congratulations on your accomplishment. It's been a long 10 months, for some folks longer than others, I think. Thank you very much for the honor of choosing me for B Squad as the Instructor of the Year. I'm really surprised about that because of all the stuff I did to you. Occasionally, Officer Peters and I would get together and compare notes about how many people we had puke on a certain day, so it was always a competition. You guys won, so. Anyway, what I'm here to do is acknowledge and recognize two individuals whose performance over the course of the academy and the classes that I taught for B Squad and for Officer Peters with A Squad was significant and very noticeable. When the recruits start with Officer Peters and I, it's usually a very cold, snowy morning in January when they come to orientation, and we take them to our traditional hill run up to the X. Usually there's a good amount of snow and the wind is biting, and after the short run there, we make them run up and down and up and down, and sometimes the running includes crawling on your hands up the hill, and that's where we get a gauge on who we need to work with a little bit more and find out how hard we need to work. But over the course of the classes that we teach, we have some individuals who don't quite prepare for the academy the way they should. Usually around this time, I'm talking with the new recruits that are coming in for the class in January, and I'm warning them ahead of time, please start running. Please start running. And about 50% listen, 25% kind of listen, and the other 25% just kind of sit back and watch TV for the remaining month until the academy comes up. But the person I'm going to recognize first, when they came into the academy, they had some work to do, and there was no complaining on that person's part. There were people who were head and shoulders above a lot of folks in the area of fitness and functional strength, and this person just wasn't quite there at the beginning, but he persevered. He really put a lot of effort into a lot of my sadistic workouts, and he really made some progress. Changed his body composition significantly. He lost a lot of fat and gained a lot of muscle, but his core weight didn't really change a whole lot. So it was really maybe a little bit difficult to see if you're looking at him with clothes on. Not that I looked at him without clothes on. But he really did a good job. He grabbed a hold of the challenge, and he ran with it. And being an older fella, it wasn't very easy for him. Because one of the things that kind of helps me is they don't know when I'm going to stop. I know when I'm going to stop, and that little psychological twist usually was what separates me from them. That's it. I usually go home and I'm popping ibuprofen and ice in my knees, and nothing I would tell them at the beginning I can tell them now because I don't have to do PT with them anymore. So the person I want to recognize who really put forth a great effort came from a base that wasn't very good and rose to a very satisfactory, above average level of fitness is recruit Joseph Walters. The next award, that was the most improved, by the way, I'm sorry. The next award is the Wells Award. Charles Wells was probably one of the longest running instructors, I would say, in MCOS for PT. He is still here at CC as the athletic director, but there are some officers here in the crowd and on stage who had Charlie Wells as an instructor for PT. And one of the ways that we recognized his contribution to Grand Rapids Community College's Police Academy was to deliver an award for an outstanding recruit in the area of fitness and wellness, to acknowledge his contribution. And there's one given for both A Squad and B Squad. The person that I'm going to award this to came into the academy. He was very good shape to begin with. Always had a very positive attitude throughout, and was really good even when he was sucking some air at getting other people motivated and getting them rolling. It takes a lot when you've come off a long run and a long workout to not want to just bend over and take a rest, but he's up on his feet, getting people coming across that finish line and really motivating them. He also suffered through a number of our workouts where he was the bad guy and had to take a little bit of a whooping wearing a fist suit. But his attitude throughout the academy has been one that I have admired greatly, in that he knew what he wanted to do and did nothing but work towards that goal, both from the physical standpoint and the academic standpoint. He's got a great will to win and a great will to fight, and as with any of these recruits that are here, I'd be proud to work with him. So for the Wells Award for B Squad, I'm recognizing Ryan Myers. Thank you very much.
Officer Peters.
Good evening. I have the great opportunity to teach A Squad's physical fitness training, subject control training, and police tactics. I'm very fortunate in the fact that I'm one of the few instructors that gets to see the recruits 2, 3, sometimes 5 days a week for their entire 10 months. I find it fortunate. I'm not sure that they feel the same. It depends on the class and what we're doing for the day, I bet. But I also have the opportunity to present a couple of awards as Lieutenant Wu did as well. If I could have recruit Sean Reed step forward, please. Within the first week of the Police Academy is the section when we start physical fitness training. And within that first week, we do a diagnostic test. All the students came in at a pretty decent level of physical fitness, as they have to be able to get into the academy. During the diagnostic test, there's 4 events, and Recruit Reed passed all three of the 4 events. The one event that he was just shy on was the push-ups. So at that point, I put him on a personal improvement plan. I've put a number of students in the past on personal improvement plans. What that requires out of him is to be in constant communication with me to get further instructions on what his exercise program will be, not only in class, but on his own outside of class. And in the past, traditionally, unfortunately, a number of students either get discouraged or often make excuses as to why their numbers are not where they should be. I didn't hear or see either of those from Recruit Reed during that time. He just simply did what he had to do to attain the goal to be able to pass his exit standards just a few months later. So when the test came, just 4 short months later, not only did he pass the test, he passed the test with no issues whatsoever. So that is why I've selected Recruit Reed for A Squad's most improved in the area of PT. Congratulations. Recruit Mathis, if you join me up here, please. As Lieutenant Wu already mentioned, each year we select one student from each squad to receive the Excellence in Physical Fitness Training, which we've renamed the Charles Wells Award. This year I'm going to present it to Ricky Mathis, and let me just start by presenting some numbers. These are the 4 events that the students take for diagnostic and also exit. Vertical jump, 29.5 inches. Sit-ups, 61 in 1 minute. Push-ups, 98 in 1 minute. And also there's another time unofficially that I proctored this test where he did 106 in 1 minute. And shuttle run of a time of 3 minutes and 9 seconds. Absolutely incredible numbers. Broke some of the records that the Academy has had for some time and some that were just broken last year. But recruit Mathis is not receiving this award strictly on these numbers. He demonstrated a very high level of physical fitness when he entered the Academy, and he could have coasted through the fitness class and still pass the exit standard. But he chose to work hard every day in class. Everyone in the squad knew what he was capable of. They saw that he did not take a day off, he did not take an exercise off, he pushed himself constantly. During the spring break time, I strongly encouraged the students to work out on their own. I found out after the break that many of them got together and recruit Mathis led them in a number of exercises. For those type of behaviors and his incredible desire and passion for physical fitness is why I've selected him to be the Charles Wells Award winner for A Squad. Recruit Tetro, please join me. As it's already been mentioned earlier, we've had 3 of our alumni that have gone into the career of law enforcement and have been killed in line of duty. On July 8, 2007, Officer Robert Kosminski of the Grand Rapids Police Department was shot and killed in line of duty. Officer Kosminski graduated from GRCC's Police Academy in 1999. A few months later, he began his career with the Grand Rapids Police Department. Soon after his death, the staff here at GRCC Police Academy knew that we needed to do something to honor Officer Kosminski. So with the help of the GRCC Foundation Office, we approached the Kosminski family with the idea of establishing the Officer Robert Kosminski Memorial Scholarship. We asked the Kosminski family if they had any desire to be a part of the selection process, and they absolutely loved the thought and opportunity to do so. So we established the guidelines that we would use to select the recipient. Each year, the current Police Academy students write an essay. The Police Academy staff then narrow the applicants down based on the applicant's essay and the performance in the Academy up to that point. After we narrow it down to approximately 3 to 4 students, we turn that information over to the Kosminski family, and they in turn subsequently choose the scholarship recipient. And this year, I'd like to acknowledge that recruit Holly Tetro was selected for the Officer Kosminski Memorial Scholarship.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Jim DeVries from the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards to give the Outstanding Performance Awards.
"98 push-ups in a minute. My heart rate isn't that fast when I'm running. Graduates and family members and fellow law enforcement professionals, I would like to thank you for allowing me to participate in this graduation event. It's truly an honor and a privilege. I'm here today to bring congratulations from the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. And as a commissioner, I represent several different disciplines within the criminal justice community. The commission is made up of 14 members who are appointed by the governor and 3 additional members who by our law are commissioners by virtue of their positions they hold in law enforcement. Commission members represent chiefs of police, sheriffs, law enforcement labor organizations, prosecuting attorneys, the Criminal Defense Bar, the Detroit Police Department, the Michigan State Police, and the Michigan Attorney General. Graduates, I welcome each of you into the law enforcement and criminal justice family that the Commission represents. And as I do this, I would like to take a minute to challenge each of you to reach out and become acquainted with your extended law enforcement family. There are over 20,000 law enforcement officers in the state. Developing a positive relationship throughout law enforcement and the criminal justice disciplines will not only allow you to speak highly of your agency, it will reflect on how you are viewed in the law enforcement community. That extended family of which you are now a member is reflected in the MCOLs. Our staff and the Commission itself are composed of persons who possess a wealth of field experience as well as advanced education and professional development. MCOLs, as you may know us, is committed to the continuing professionalism of law enforcement and the criminal justice system. By law, the Commission is responsible for developing and administering selection and training standards that are used to identify qualified candidates and prepare them to perform the important functions of a law enforcement officer. As part of that preparation, the Commission recognizes the candidates who have performed in an exemplary manner throughout the training process. This award recognizes many things. However, the key component in a candidate's preparation to do the job of a law enforcement officer is the successful completion of the academy training. The MCOLS Outstanding Performance Award is presented to the recruit who has demonstrated exceptional performance in the academy experience. The recipient typically exemplifies the characteristics of an ideal officer by exhibiting the highest standards of mental, physical, and moral fitness while in the training environment. To be selected for this award, recruits are rated by academy staff and fellow recruits based on overall academic achievement, skill performance, appearance, leadership, and communications ability. Now, I have two awards tonight, both one for Squad A and Squad B, and on behalf of the Commission, it gives me great pleasure to present the Outstanding Performance Award for Squad A to Jason Paddock. And for Squad B, Ryan Myers.
Thank you. In 2009, the Police Academy joined a tradition that dates back to World War I, the issuance of a challenge coin. From its military beginnings, the challenge coin had a special affiliation with a select group of individuals and has been widely adopted by police, fire, EMS agencies after the terrorist attacks of September 11. Once the coin is earned, the member can be challenged by a fellow coin holder to produce the coin or pay the consequences. The coin is earned and never just given. It is a reward given for the blood, the sweat, and the tears that was endured by the class of 2012 and to those alumni that came before you. Session 79 has been a great year. I hope that this coin serves as an everyday reminder that you are part of something bigger than yourself. I hope that as you carry this coin in your pocket, you will remember where you came from and the bonds that were formed as you earned it. To A and B squads, it is my challenge to you to carry this coin with you during your career, to honor yourself, your fellow recruits, Grand Rapids Community College Police Academy, and to the law enforcement profession. It is my privilege as the director of the Police Academy to issue you a GRCC Police Academy Challenge coin and to welcome you to the Thin Blue Line. At this time, I'd like to have Nikki Banks come and assist me with the presentation of coins.
Philip Andres. Gordon Carpenter. Seth Carter. Matthew Castle. Matthew Glass. Stephen Hall. Shauna Hamoki. Ricky Mathis. Jason Paddock. Sean Reed. Stephen Ritzenheim. Joey Saladino. Travis Skippers. Holly Tetro. Timothy Zirup. Thomas Gursky. Justin Laux. Grant Longberg. Ryan Myers. Emil Perry III. Forrest Sabo. Robert Trethui. Joseph Walters. Carl Williams. Joshua Wise.
At the beginning of the week, we had 2 recruits that had been hired before they even were done with the licensing exam just a week ago. Now what I'm told is 6 people have been hired in the police academy since last week already. Two of them I just found out about before graduation. I'd like Ricky Mathis and Grant Longberg to please stand up. They just received conditional offers with Roswell, New Mexico. At this time, I would like one at a time, there are some chiefs here from local organizations and the recruits that just got jobs. I'd like to start with Chief Carrie-Ann Thomas from Kalamazoo Public Safety and Stephen Hall. This time I'd like Sergeant Griffith from South Haven Police Department and Officer Ryan Myers. Under Sheriff John Hess from Kent County Sheriff's Department and Gordon Carpenter. Doing the honors on behalf of Carson City Police Department, Officer Bo Peters and Officer Jason Paddock. Let's give one last congratulations to the class of 2012. You are all dismissed. Have a great evening.